CICOA's first Aging Advantages Summit. Thank you all for coming this morning and for investing your time and attention for the next few hours. My name is Tarek Brown, and I am the President and CEO of CICOA Aging and At-Home Solutions, and I'm honored to be here with you today. A favorite quote is by the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who wrote, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" This question has been transformative in my own life and one that we will be exploring over the morning. Our goal here is to raise awareness of how older adults are transforming lives in Central Indiana by volunteering of their time, talent, and treasure with community and faith-based organizations. Volunteering not only provides valuable services to our community, but also offers cognitive, physical, and emotional benefits to the volunteer. So as it turns out, helping others actually helps ourselves. We have invited representatives from several organizations to join us today to discuss the benefits of volunteerism as well as local volunteer opportunities across Central Indiana for older adults. We hope that you will leave here inspired by what you hear, but also with a profound sense of gratitude for all those who help create a community of caring. But let me begin by giving you a brief introduction to CICOA. CICOA is a local nonprofit that serves older adults, people of any age with a disability, and family caregivers with the goal of helping people stay in their home or community-based setting for as long as possible. I like to say we work extremely hard to make that dream of aging in place a reality. When you ask older adults about what their intention is in retirement, 90% of them will say they want to stay in their own home as they age. We call this aging in place. Despite the stereotypes of seniors moving to retirement communities in Florida, Arizona, or elsewhere, this actually represents only 5% of that population. Most seniors, when asked, say they want to live in the place where they raise their family, where their church or synagogue is, and where they have friends. But about half of that group don't know if they will be able to. They don't know if their health will hold up, if their money will hold out, or maybe their kids have moved away and they don't have social supports nearby. CICOA helps families navigate these questions. Regardless of age or ability, we want people to remain engaged and involved in the community as best they can so they can live with the greatest possible independence, dignity, and quality of life. CICOA is not a healthcare organization or provider. We're not a medical practice or pharmacy, but the work we do has a direct impact on people's health outcomes, and it helps families and individuals follow through to achieve their loved ones' short and long-term goals. Whether we are counseling people about available services, developing care plans, providing nutritious meals, transportation, home modifications, or respite for caregivers, part of our mission and vision also depends on volunteer engagement. We hope you will learn more about these opportunities and help us make a difference for others. But now let me introduce you to our MC for the morning. Denise Jones-Harrington is CICOA's Faith Partnership Coordinator and the organizer of this wonderful event. Please join me in welcoming Denise to the podium. Denise.
Thank you, Tarek. We really appreciate you and your enthusiasm as we kick off this summit. So thanks to all of you for attending. We appreciate you being here, and we hope you will enjoy the whole morning. So just wanted to go over some housekeeping things at first, that we do have coffee and refreshments out in the gathering area, as well as the restrooms. We have two in the back of the sanctuary here, And then when you go out of the gathering area, there's some restrooms there and there's a sign to guide you there. Our Wi-Fi is a guest Wi-Fi, so it's accessible to everybody. So if you need Wi-Fi, feel free to come onto the guest Wi-Fi. So basically, you all have a copy of the schedule today. And on the front is the schedule of our speakers and presenters for today. And then on the back, we have all of the people who are out in the hallway, our sponsors and our vendors. And we really want to thank them for the opportunity to come and be a part of this. Some of the tables have giveaways. So when you go by, may ask you just put your name in a basket or something like that. They're doing some separate giveaways, as well as we're doing a $25 gift card giveaway if you complete that survey that you were handed when you come in. So you can leave the survey on the seat, or you can turn it in at the registration desk when you came in, just so that we can collect them. And there's even a table on the outside of the sanctuary here that you can use as well. So we will have a break around 10:05. And we're going to really try to stay as close as we can to our schedule, and that will give you an opportunity to go out and see the vendors or use the restroom or grab a cup of coffee or some juice. And so we're going to go ahead and begin. And our first person that's coming up is going to be introducing our speakers. So we have Hattie So, who is the Senior Program Manager for the Alzheimer Association, and she's going to introduce our first speakers.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here with you today. I just ran from the other side of the room over here, so please excuse me. The work that we do, the hardest part about working in Alzheimer's and dementia is hearing from families, I wish I had known about you sooner. So we find that that happens a lot. We want families to know about the free resources and information that is available to them. Ralph and Molly Richards work tirelessly to make sure that families have this information. So it is my privilege to not only work with them, but to introduce them today as community educator volunteers for the Alzheimer's Association.
Good morning, everyone. And Hadia, thanks for that introduction. We appreciate Torek and Denise and CICOA for inviting us here. It's our pleasure. Anytime we have an opportunity to talk about volunteerism, here you will find us. We've been doing this for 20 plus years, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. We didn't start here. We started in New York, and we migrated back to our hometown. But anyway, I'm Ralph Richards. We're community educators with the Alzheimer's Association. And in addition to that, we are also on the board at the Indiana Alzheimer's Disease and Research Center for the Indiana University School of Medicine. And what we do, we go out into the community and we establish relationships. We find out the needs. We find out what do we need to provide for the people in the community. I think we've been charged today to come here and talk about volunteerism, why we volunteer, and also as particularly the advantages associated with African Americans. I think you have to have a passion, and just to kind of share a story as to how my passion bloomed was my mother passed away years ago, and my dad remarried, and the lady he remarried had Alzheimer's. And he would try to do everything for her. He would cook for her. He would bathe her. He would do everything. He would have no one to help her at all. He would call us and we would try to coach him, and we didn't know that much about Alzheimer's either. So we said there must be other people in the community just like him. So while we were working, we said, what can we do to play a significant part? This was a significant emotional event that occurred in our life that made the change that turned us around. I'll let Molly come on and I'll come back.
Okay, good morning. As he said, my name is Molly and I am a retired occupational therapist. And so I'm used to being busy, used to working with people. And my volunteer journey actually started by looking at what my mother did. My mother volunteered a lot. She was on every committee at school and she was very involved in church. And so I just sort of didn't think too much about it at that time, but I decided when my children were old enough that they didn't need me at the house all the time, that I would volunteer. So I started volunteering when we lived in Reston, Virginia. I worked on the committee where we were building activities for the youth in Reston. But then when we moved to New York, I also volunteered. And like Ralph said, we volunteered with the Alzheimer's Association there, but we were also on the board of directors there, and we're on the board of directors here for the Alzheimer's Association. I'm also on the national committee for, which is a volunteer job, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I also volunteer with community hospital, so, and with my church. But the reason I'm passionate about it, when I was 17 years old, my father was diagnosed with a form of dementia. I didn't know what that meant. I was getting ready to go to Bloomington for college, and my mother encouraged me to go. And so I did. And I only stayed there for a year because then I came back home and went to school from home to help my mother take care of my dad. And so again, I really didn't know that much about Alzheimer's or dementia, but I knew that support was needed. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because every time we give a presentation, someone says, I wish I had known this information while my loved one was still alive. I would have done things differently. So I become very passionate about giving this information, trying to educate people. And because African Americans are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, we talk to anybody, but really are focusing on the African American community to try to get more education there so that we can reduce the risk. And we like to talk to younger people too. People think that this is just an old person's disease, but it can start in your late 20s or 30s. And so one of the places where we do education is Ivy Tech. So we can talk to younger people. And so I'll let Ralph talk, because I could talk all day.
Thanks, Molly. We can, and we do. And people invite us in to talk. And I think that's kind of great too. But I wanted just to continue my story with my dad, because I think it's important, is that one Saturday morning he got up with his wife. She was still in bed asleep. And he thought it was a good opportunity for him to go into his garden and kind of walk around the yard. So he did that. And when he came back in, he called out to his wife and received no answer. And he went through all the rooms and could not find her. And then he saw the basement door open. And there at the bottom of the stairs, she had fallen and she had fractured her skull. You know, I think people need to understand that that with this disease, you're not by yourself. You know, you have to have a team to kind of work with you. And that's what volunteers do. We team up with the caregivers out in the community, and we kind of help them along the way. So we were surprised, and I have to share this, just a few weeks ago, that the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Indiana awarded me with the Golden Hoosier Award for the work that I do with Alzheimer's. And both Molly and I would award the Heroes Award by the Indianapolis Business Journal. And not that we look for any awards or rewards, but it's an opportunity to get the story into the street and passionately work towards something that we really believe in and associate with others. So I don't know if we've run out of time here, Molly?
I think so.
Okay.
And I just want to say, volunteering for me is a lot of fun. I get a lot of joy out of volunteering. So I hope that you will find your place to volunteer and come join our world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly and Ralph Richards. I've had the privilege of knowing them for about 4 years now. And I tell you, they are busy people. They are always on the go, but they're passionate about what they do. And it's always good to hear people that have found that passion even after retirement. So now we're getting ready to have a panel come up. And they're going to talk about the importance of volunteers in the faith community. And we have a little bit of a variety, so that makes it nice as well. So to my far right here, we have Jay Foster, who is the Vice President of Spiritual Care at Indiana Health, IU Health. And then he's also over all the chaplains, right? The spiritual care part. So then we have Lisa Fleetwood, who's in the middle, and she's a registered nurse, and she is the faith community nurse for Community Health Network. And then we have Sherry Jackson, who is a volunteer and a member of Christ Missionary Baptist Church, which goes by CMBC now, right? All righty, wonderful. So they're going to talk a little bit about their experience with the faith community, the importance of volunteers for the faith community. Jay has a program that's fairly new to the Indianapolis area where he's doing some recruitments in the faith community for people coming out of healthcare issues, where they're coming out of the hospital or they've been to a clinic and have some health issues. And then, so we'll just let each one of you just kind of talk a little bit about what you do first, and then I think we may have some questions possibly. So, okay.
North Carolina, what we call caring for the sick and the shut. How do we do that well? What Mr. and Mrs. Richards spoke to so beautifully about being part of the team. Well, it turns out that volunteers want to be part of the team and know more about that than anybody else. And that actually just providing our intervention is very fancy. You know, if you're working in a healthcare system, you got to have an intervention. So our intervention is to offer love to people. That's the whole intervention. And we feel like if someone can get the full attention of a trained volunteer, we call our volunteers connectors, so that they can help people connect with their own spiritual resources, and then connect them because if you really listen to somebody for an hour, you're going to learn all kind of stuff. So maybe you'll connect them with a need for food insecurity or with transportation issues, or maybe it's a much more serious issue and connect them with a mental health provider, a domestic violence shelter, any kind of issue. So just real briefly, here's how it works. Our chaplains help identify a patient who's 50 years of age or older, who's going home, and just presents to them to the program and says, do you think this might be a help to you? And if they raise their hand, then we connect them with a congregation in their neighborhood. Then we provide training to a small group in that congregation of 6 persons. The training is called companionship training. And then the connector, the volunteer connector, would reach out to the patient, who we call a companion, and provide an hour a week of listening, right, for 6 to 12 weeks, with the idea at the end of that time to hopefully help that person become really connected with a network. Maybe that would be the congregation they're calling from, but more likely it would be a bowling league or a art club or a CICOA volunteer program. It would be something meaningful to them. Does that make sense? So it's a pretty simple program, but I guess the last thing I'd say about it, and then I need to turn it over before I run out of time, is that we ask the volunteers to give 2 hours a week, 1 hour to caring for their companion and 1 hour to meeting with each other and supporting each other. Because we believe that, you know, Mother Teresa said, for every hour you spend in the clinic, spend an hour in the garden. So that hour a week with each other is the hour in the garden where they learn how do I best care for this person I'm caring for. So there's way more I could speak because I'm a minister, but I'm going to now be quiet. Watch that. Oh, I do want to say this. So in introducing Lisa, who's a great colleague, she's got a program, and it turns out that one of our new churches, Calvary Tabernacle, their lead volunteer has just finished Lisa's training. So it's one way that our programs can work together.
Thank you, Jay. Well, good morning. Good morning. I hope not. I didn't think I touched it. Hello? Okay. So I am here to talk a little bit about a program. You You can tell I'm not a performer or a minister. A little bit about a program that we have at Community Health Network with a unique volunteer opportunity called the Faith Health Initiative. And I made a presentation, so I'm going to stick to it a little bit. Who in here has heard of a faith community nurse? Raise your hand. Wow, my gosh, I'm so excited. That gives me the goosebumps because typically people don't know too much about faith community nursing. It's also called parish nursing. You may have known it by that name. So I want to share just a bit about faith community nursing. First of all, it's a specialty practice in nursing. It's more than just you have a nurse in your congregation and he or she wants to volunteer. It's actually an approved specialty by the American Nurses Association. So that means we have our own scope and standards of practice. We have our own training. We have things that we can and cannot do within congregations. And so that's really important. The other thing is, it is the theme of today. It's volunteers. Most of the time, the faith community nurse just volunteers in her congregation. In fact, probably about 90% of the time. What sets faith community nursing apart really is this idea of intentionally caring for the spirit. And so all nurses are kind of charged to do holistic care, but in a faith organization or a congregation, the faith community nurse really intertwines the faith tenets, spirituality, connectedness, peace, meaning, and purpose. And all of those things are kind of combined together to bring the person their optimal health. So again, it's in a congregation, but we have community settings. We have one faith community nurse that we support that her congregation has an outreach program where the congregation actually pays for laundry service for individuals who can't afford it. And so while they're at the laundromat, the faith community nurse sits in there, checks blood pressures, makes sure to do some assessments, refers to resources and that sort of thing. Faith community nurses are big on early detection of disease. So we know that if we can detect disease early, we can get you into the care you need. We can give you education on lifestyle management and hopefully reverse some of those conditions. And then connecting to resources. And I put more than just giving a phone number. So I've been a faith community nurse since 2012. And I can't tell you the times you don't just give someone a phone number, you pick up the phone and you sit with them and teach them how to have a conversation with a provider. You teach them everything that they need to know to have a good doctor's appointment. What do they need to bring? What do they need to walk out with? And so it's really more of, going that next step. And then this one's big. We all know what we need to do to be healthy, right? I think we all know, but faith community nurses are trained in a concept called motivational interviewing. And I've learned a lot as a nurse, but that is the most important thing I've ever learned is how to help people unlock that internal motivation. Everybody's capable of being healthy. They have it in their own potential. And it's our job as faith community nurses to just champion that and advocate for them. And then we do a lot of care coordination as faith community nurses. If a patient is discharged from the hospital and it's a member of your congregation, it's the faith community nurse that kind of helps the family, the congregation, the volunteers understand what they need and how you would best serve them. And then, of course, to address health disparities and access to care. We know lots of people don't have access to health care. And so we want to make sure we connect them to the resources and services they need. So I wanted to share this quick picture. I am so excited. This, again, gives me the goosebumps, which I get a lot. This is our first cohort. We just trained 10 registered nurses from Community Health Network, and you can see their smiling faces behind those masks. You can really tell they're there. And so Community Health Network has brought the curriculum to our network so that we can provide that training, which is pretty expensive, at no cost. So we provide any Community Health Network nurse, current or retired, that training. It's a 40-hour training. It's about $1,000 to $1,500. And we give that to our nurses at no cost. And a nurse from another network or organization, we make them pay $150, which is super nominal. So once the faith community nurse goes through the program, we offer them all the support and services that they need to be able to operate that health ministry. Again, we know they're volunteering and we want to make it as easy as possible for them to do so. So we provide training, we provide the policies and procedures, which are really important for the legal liability of faith community nursing. And we provide starter kits, blood pressure cuffs, scales, rolling file cabinets, educational handouts, anything they need, we provide at no cost. We provide liability insurance to community health network nurses who want to volunteer in their congregations. We provide that again at no cost. And then documentation support, which again is another guardrail to make sure that they're following their scope and standards and minimizing that liability. And how do we promote older adult health? Well, we love older adults who can help us by volunteering within health ministries. There's so much to do within our congregations to make people achieve that optimum health. We provide caregiver resources and support, navigation, health education, again, care coordination. And then we do lots of social and educational events. We do lots of senior programs within our faith community nurse programs. And so I think that's important. And then also screening. So if anybody out there is a registered nurse or knows a registered nurse and would like to learn more about this program, I'd love to share a little bit more with you about it, and my email is up there. So without further ado, I want to pass this over to Sherry, who's going to share a little bit about her experience.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. And thank you, Denise. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm not with a program at IU or e-community. I'm just out here in the community, just doing what I love to do best. In 2000, I retired after 40 plus years of being in corporate America, and I took a step back and I said, now what? What now? What am I going to do? How am I going to fill all of those hours? And there's a quote that I want to share with you today that, and I paraphrase normally, but I want to read it to you. And it says, it's a Irma Bombeck quote. And those that remember her, you know, she was full of these wonderful quotes, but it's something that she said, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything you gave me. When I say that, you know, chills come through me, because that's what I want to do, is use everything he gave me. Over the 40 years, there's, you know, you have your spiritual gifts, but then you also have all of those work experiences that come with that. And after 40 years, you have to realize this, what should I do with all of this experience, all of this talent, all of this time? What should I do with it? And so after retiring, I went to CICOA, not only to hear about some information, but my congregation was aging. My parents were aging. My siblings, I have 5 of them, all aging. So, okay, let's go to CICOA and see what's going on. We went, and I saw Dan earlier today. There you are, Dan. Talked to Dan. I was just wanting to ask a couple of questions. Well, that couple of questions turned into 3 or 4 hours of him spending with us, just talking about volunteerism and what CICOA could do for you. So after leaving Dan, a few months later, I read that quote and I said, okay, Lord, what do you have for me? Outside of the walls of my church, which is aging, what do you have for me? So I began volunteering at CICOA. And that was a wonderful journey. But there was one particular assignment that I had that really revealed to me the depth of what the needs are in our older community. I called to get feedback on customer satisfaction surveys. And many of the individuals that I called, they were older adults. Many of them didn't know why I was calling, who I was, why would I even call them? So it revealed to me the need for our older adults to have advocates. And so when I left there, I realized, even though at that time my mom and dad did not want us in their business, it was necessary as a result of being on calls with those older adults that someone need to be involved to just really understand what's going on with all these legal terms, all this insurance stuff, all this things that they have just gone through life not caring or not understanding, but also realizing that there's a greater need. There's a greater need. And thank God there are advocates now that could touch these individuals. But what about those that don't? What about those that are sitting in nursing homes, assisted living, and have no one, that need someone to come and just have some conversation with them? So those are the things that I picked up from CICOA. And then I'm trotting along, always reaching out to those, because I learned a lot about all of the services and learning how to share that with other congregations, other members, family members, and anyone that would listen. Then I was able to connect with an organization called Unite Indy that was also connecting resources between churches, resources, volunteerism, volunteer opportunities, needs and services by various congregations. I tell you, those that are here and that are listening to me, there is so many things out there for you to do. There's so many things. You can build a blessing box in your neighborhood and put all those books that you don't want to, that you haven't read, and put them in the box. And you'll be amazed at the people in the neighborhood that would just come to that box, not only replenish it for you, but also get those books that they've been wanting to read as well. You'd just be amazed at the number of inmates in prisons that would love to hear from a letter writer, someone that is encouraging them, someone that is trying to uplift them. You'd be amazed at the opportunities out there that are just waiting for you to tap in to those resources that you have and that God has given you. So with that, and if you have any questions, I'm done.
I'm encouraged. So are there any particular questions or anything that any of you thought of after you spoke that you wanted to say about? Any questions? Okay, so the reason they're all here is because of the fact that we know that faith communities really are the heart of our communities. And so I just wanted to have this opportunity to really have you see that not only can that just happen in your congregation, but it can happen anywhere in the Indianapolis area, and that there's so many different opportunities. And it was interesting that Sherry was talking, it made me think about when my mom received services through CICOA. I didn't know a lot about CICOA at first. And then as she was receiving services, people started asking me questions, so now I become the expert, even though I work with CICOA, but now it's like friends call because we are all getting at the point where our parents were aging and needing some assistance. So that you can also be an advocate in that way, because once you know about things, and that's what we're hoping the point of today is that you will hear about some services, that you will hear about volunteer opportunities, that you can also share with your your circle of friends, your family, and let them know that, hey, there is an opportunity out there, because we never know what people are going through in their life, the changes that may be happening. And so I think when people have changes in their lives, then volunteering comes to mind. And so we just want to make sure that you know that there are plenty of places that could use your expertise and use your service and your time. Yeah, definitely. So I was going to say, for Jay's program, interesting, that program originated out of Memphis, Tennessee, right? And can you speak to why they even started the program there?
So, sure.
It'll come on. Just give them a second.
Okay. The idea of large healthcare institutions working with faith communities is nothing new, right? So IU Health has two fiduciary partners. One is Indiana University. The other is the United Methodist Church. My office is the Methodist Hospital. So when the hospital was founded in the 1800s, it was founded as a diaconal ministry to care for the poor. But there is an effort in the last 20 years to sort of reinvigorate this idea. And the idea basically is hospitals are used to coming into communities and going, well, let me tell you how to help you with that, which is not how to do it, actually. So the program in Memphis, Tennessee, at Laban Hoover began with a chaplain and a pastor named Bobby Baker, who met with 12 other pastors for about a year before they ever began anything, thinking, how are we really going to leverage the wisdom of congregations of many faiths to increase the health of our community?
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of models now. The exciting news is there's, if you go on a website called Stakeholder Health, there are about 50 really large healthcare institutions across America doing this in lots of different ways. I guess the thing I would emphasize from Ms. Jackson's, forgive me, point of view was the importance of, there is so much in this community. Mm-hmm. How do we connect those resources well? Mm-hmm. And how do we lend our credibility to another person's credibility? Mm-hmm. So our little bitty program, which is just starting, has had, I think, really pretty good success in its first year, because somebody comes to a trusted healthcare provider, and then the healthcare provider lends their trust to the church in their neighborhood. They've walked by the church for years, but they have not walked in the door, but they know it's a trusted door. Mm-hmm, and so that makes sense. So to tell one story, there was one member of our family practice clinic downtown who had a really good relationship with the provider, a really good relationship with their social worker, but it was the volunteer that they told, I've had a tough time lately, so I've not been buying my medication so that I could buy this thing for a family member who needed that thing. Mm-hmm. And the volunteer didn't quite know what to do with that information, but leaned back in to say, well, talk to your healthcare provider about that. Anyway, and just encourage the conversation. And once the healthcare provider knew that information, could help them resolve that issue with their medication shortage, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the communication thing that's never rocket science. It does take extra love, right? Mm-hmm.
I love that, Jay. That's a great story. And that's one of the things that I love about working with the faith communities, because people trust their faith community. And oftentimes that's the first place they go. You either go and talk to a minister or a parish nurse or somebody just in the congregation to discuss some things that are going with you. So I think that's a great way to say that communication happens and that trust happens, and then the connection is there. I think the unique thing that from the story in Memphis when they first started this program was they didn't know what all the disparities were in their community until they started having conversation. And so I think that's the big thing when we talk about, health providers, and then people in the community know what's going on, but is that communication happening so that they can work together? So it's great to see these programs that are working together as well. So thank you so much. Well, thank you. Oh, we appreciate you. So our next speakers to come up are from Catholic Charities. And we have Monica Woodsworth, who is with the RSVP program. She's the director of that program, and she'll tell you what that all what that stands for. And then we also have Joyce Bevan, who is the Senior Companion Associate Director. So they're going to come up and talk about their program.
Morning, thank you. We will have our PowerPoint up in a second. My name is Monica, and I am here with another faith volunteer connection because with Catholic Charities, we do have different programs, not only for volunteering, but for assistance. And the important thing to remember, I think, with many of the faith communities that are helping, and it's not limited to that faith community. So although we're part of Catholic Charities, you do not have to be Catholic to volunteer or to access any of our services. The programs that Joyce and I are with are AmeriCorps programs. Has anyone heard of AmeriCorps before? Wonderful, this is good. AmeriCorps has been around for ages, and specifically AmeriCorps Senior programs have been around for more than 50 years. So more than 50 years ago, our federal government said, we see people retiring at 55, and we don't want to lose the value that they bring to our communities. So we want to find a way to keep them involved and give opportunities for them to go into the communities and share their experience and their life skills and make those communities better. And one of the things that came up in the last presentation is that there are a lot of opportunities. There are, but sometimes people don't know how to get started, where that entry point is to find out about those opportunities. And that's where Senior Corps comes in, where we can work with individuals to help them realize what those opportunities are and help them get connected. So this is just an example of how we're a federal program connected with the community and then all the other local programs around. So we start with AmeriCorps, and then one of the arms of AmeriCorps is AmeriCorps Seniors. Within AmeriCorps Seniors, we have these three programs: the foster grandparents, RSVP, and the Senior Companion Program. All of those AmeriCorps Senior programs need to have a local sponsor. And that's where Catholic Charities has stepped up and said, we truly believe in what these programs do, and we're going to support it within our community. And so Catholic Charities has taken on both RSVP and the Senior Companion Program. Marion County also has the other program, the Foster Grandparent Program, and that's through Community Action. So within RSVP, just to distinguish a little bit, we are a volunteer clearinghouse. So people pick and choose what they do. They get to know what all of the options are and they pick and choose. The Senior Companion Program specifically focuses on in-home friendly visits, where they're going into the home of an older adult who may be homebound or isolated and helping them stay independent. And then we have those connections within both of our programs, both my program and Joyce's program. We are working with the local community. So with RSVP, we may be working with CICOA or SHIP or Perry Senior Services or the Shepherd Center of Hamilton County and helping them to recruit volunteers. Whereas Joyce's program, she would be working with Eskenazi or again CICOA to get referrals for people who need those volunteers to come in for friendly visits on a regular basis. So just going back to RSVP then, the only requirement, and RSVP stands for Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. It's both retired and senior, because we know at this point, most people aren't retired at 55. If somebody is lucky enough to have that happen, we celebrate that. But we know many people are getting past that age and still working, but that doesn't mean they don't want to spend part of their time volunteering as well. So with RSVP, we look at both ongoing, one-time opportunities, things that people can do from home, or if they feel safe with the COVID situation, things that they can do out in the community. So they really have choices. And most importantly, we want people to realize that volunteering isn't something rigid. There is a lot of flexibility within volunteering in terms of the time that you may give to something, in terms of how many things you can do, or even if you travel for several months a year and want to step in and step out. There are a lot of opportunities. With the Senior Companion Program, the friendly visits that we talked about, those truly are friendly visits. They are not to provide hands-on care with things like assistance with bathing and toileting and things like that. So the companions may come in. If the companion has a car, some companions ride the bus, others have transportation. That volunteer and the client that they're matched with can decide whether or not they want to travel out in the community to do maybe walking at the YMCA or going to a park. Or if they need to stay at home, that volunteer may be helping to provide a light lunch, maybe do some light housekeeping, go through the mail. But it's all about having people engaged, because we know that as people stay engaged, they stay healthier. An important thing about the Senior Companion Program is that there is no cost to the families. There is no cost to the client that these volunteers get matched with. This is just a quick comparison chart so you can see the differences. Because when I talk about both, especially since we're both sponsored by Catholic Charities, it's really easy to get confused. But you can see 55 is our starting age for volunteers in both programs. RSVP is about choice. Senior Companions is doing the same thing, always friendly visits. In terms of the time commitment, the Senior Companions do have a minimum because they are providing that social support to keep that homebound person or that isolated person supported. So they are dedicating at least 15 hours a week. Where RSVP, you may be doing a one-time opportunity, maybe with our crisis office when they do their Christmas door. You may sign up for 2 weeks where you would be helping there, but then you would also say to Perry Senior Services, I will provide drives for people needing to get to the doctor the first Friday of every month. So you're picking and choosing and coordinating. The Senior Companions actually receive a stipend, as do foster grandparents, because those volunteers are low to moderate income individuals. So although it's not considered a job, they do get a $3 an hour stipend that does not affect things like food stamps or housing support, anything like that. So it's a little bit of extra, just a stipend to help them in other ways that they may need help as a volunteer who is lower income. RSVP, again, no requirements. It's just 55 and the willingness to do something. We do background checks on our volunteers because many of them are working with vulnerable populations. So the Senior Companions, especially since they're going in home, they're actually doing the FBI fingerprint checks. They're doing ongoing training before they even get matched to a family. With RSVP, we are doing some state and national background checks, but not the FBI checks. Our counties are a little bit different too. The Senior Companions are based in Marion County, whereas opportunities for RSVP extend both north and south and west. So Johnson, Hamilton, and Hendricks counties. And then you have both of us, our information. RSVP, the other thing that came up in the last presentation was that people are doing multiple things, caring as well as wanting to volunteer. And that's why RSVP also does caregiver support. So in addition to helping people volunteer, those volunteers may end up being in a caregiving situation, but not want to stop volunteering. And that's good because remaining true to yourself and having some autonomy besides being a caregiver, keeping your identity is important to help give you strength as you continue caregiving. So that's where the flexibility with RSVP can be very important with one-time opportunities. So within our website, I just wanted to show Catholic Charities is at helpcreatehope.org. We have programs down in that bottom tile. Clicking on that under seniors will take you to our information. And then I wanted to invite Joyce up to give you a story about how the Senior Companion Program works and how important that can be for people in the community.
So I have hundreds of stories that our senior companion has helped the family with respite and been able to provide a friendship to that frail, homebound, older adult. But the one I want to share is about Mary. She volunteers as senior companion. She's been with us a little over 3 years. And she herself has cancer, and she's in an active treatment for that. Like many of our senior companions come to us sick and they're just wanting to spend time in the community. Well, Terry was matched with a CICOA client who loves to talk. So she was calling her case manager, just wanting to talk 3 or 4 times a week. And the case manager called and we were able to make this fantastic match with a 92-year-old lady who has no family support, that's lived in her home for 50+ years. And she is no longer able to get out of her home to be involved in her church community. And so Mary goes and visits her 3 times a week and spends about 4 to 5 hours a day with her. Before pandemic, when we sent the senior companions home during the pandemic, Mary would call and check on her, do grocery drop-offs, even took her to a few doctor's appointments with safety precautions. The thing I love about this match is the case manager is able to be a case manager now, and now our 92-year-old client has a friend she can count on that can visit with her. And during the visits, they've bonded, they've made a great friendship. And just last week, our senior companion was able to take her client, to get her first vaccine. And they have plans scheduled the second one for her. But because she's homebound and no family, she was having a hard time getting to the vaccine place. And they've been together a little over 3 years. When I went to visit, the client said, "Oh, she's just my adopted daughter. And there is no way you can give me another senior companion. I want her back." And she even volunteered to get on the bus and go visit her senior companion. So, and she probably hasn't been out of her house for a few years. That's just one of our stories. Our senior companions are the most humble, gracious people I have ever been able to work with. They spend time taking their clients to, they can go with them to doctor visits, extra set of ears. They can take them to the grocery store, do errands with them. And that's according to what the senior companion feels comfortable doing. And I match accordingly. I go visit when I get a referral from a case manager at CICOA. I work with Veterans Hospital, Eskenazi. St. Vincent's community is where my referrals come from. So I go out and visit the home. I talk to the potential client and what their likes and dislikes are. And I try hard to match personalities. And I've been pretty good at it so far, I have to say. And we have senior companions come and stay. We have a couple senior companions, 20+ years with us. Our senior companion is 92 and her client's 101, and they're quite the match. And they've been together about 20 years now. So if you know someone that needs a senior companion, or someone in your churches that want to become a senior companion, please reach out. Or an RSVP. Then if you don't want the time commitment, reach out to Monica. If you want senior companion, reach out to myself. Thank you, and it was a pleasure being here. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Or they can make a self-referral. Referrals come in, yes. Right. Yes. Yes, so that you can make a self-referral, you can make a neighbor referral. Just ask permission, so when I call them, they're not totally surprised. And I do have referrals on the website, a referral form that you can just go in and fill in the information. Yes, ma'am. Nope, it's all, the insurance part's taken care of. So we Senior Companion Program actually provides the insurance for the senior, and you do not have to drive your client. Just this particular client and companion, client and companion worked it out where she's able to. Some of our senior companions, don't have a car because they're public transportation. And I take all of that into account when I'm matching. And I remind them we're not a house cleaning service and we don't do personal care. So we can't do the job of attendant care, of a home health aide. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica and Joyce. That was great information, and I think the questions were good as well. So just, I guess, again, this is what this is for, because as you know about things, you can refer people yourself to services or a particular program that they may need, and also that's great. So I was wondering, is Angela Pillman here? I haven't seen her. Okay. So we have a little extra time then, because she was going to speak for Oasis. Oh, there you are. You're behind me. So yeah, there you are. She scared me. All right. So Angela's going to talk about Indianapolis Oasis, the lifelong adventure. And I found that even working with seniors, that most people don't know about this program. So this is great because those that know about it talk very highly of it. Okay.
Let's see here, I need to organize myself. So good morning. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you for CICOA and Denise for hosting this. This is great. So my name is Angela Pellman and I'm with Indianapolis Oasis. Who knows about Oasis in this room? Yes, several of you, yeah. So today I wanted to speak a little bit about successful aging as well as volunteerism. So those of you who know about Oasis, I hope that I can share a little bit more about successful aging. So can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. So it's not my lunch, so you don't have to worry about that. So successful aging, when we think about successful aging, I think about all of us having in common that we were all born and we started our aging process right then and there. Now, it's up to you on the success of that, right? It's our own individual journey for that. Mine started almost 61 years ago to this day. And I was born in rural Indiana. My father delivered me at home. My mother, I came early, couldn't wait to start my aging process, and here I am. About 21 years ago, though, or a little bit over, I found my Oasis, where it really revealed to me firsthand successful aging. So let's think about that whole aging process. So I'm gonna get my bag. Some of you may recognize something that looks like this. Perhaps it's on your nightstand, ladies, maybe even gentlemen, right? What could that be? Maybe something to help us with our skin, right? Or maybe you recognize this one before you put your makeup on or before you head out, after you've shaved, maybe. Better recognize this one. Does this ever help anybody age successfully? It does in our house. I've grown accustomed as I'm aging to maybe look at my nutrition, right? Yeah. I know you guys just can't wait to see what I'm going to pull out of the bag next, can you? My husband's readers, they're all over the house. It's helping us to age successfully. I wear this when I mow the yard now. We have a hill, and when I go up and down that hill, if I don't have this on, I really have to take advantage of this. This also sits by my nightstand. I find as I'm aging and I'm attempting to do it so successfully that my devotions, the opportunity to meditate and connect with my faith and my beliefs is very, very important as I start and end my day. And sometimes we depend on these too to help us age successfully. So yeah, we do dual things sometimes. Aging successfully may mean things besides dealing with our bodies changing, but our security, right? And financially. How will I approach that next chapter? Or how am I going to approach that next day or whatever it may be, right? So yeah, I have $1. I've guarded it closely. We also think about travel as we're approaching and successfully aging. Where will this train take us? We like to travel by train. And so, you know, where will we go? What will we discover? What will we explore? What will we learn? For some, aging successfully may be able to drive, keeping your independence so that you can take yourself to your doctor's appointments, to the grocery store, whatever it may be. So these are all kind of little symbols that I thought of as I reflect upon myself aging successfully and my parents aging successfully and staying in their home, being as independent as possible. So we think about, like I said, kind of all of a sudden you're reaching for the moisturizer more often. And then maybe you have a crossroads in your life and your foundation of your spiritual belief. You start depending on that more and more. And so where does this all take us? And how do I continue to age successfully? Well, I hope that people would find themselves at their oasis. Oasis is a small non-for-profit. We are a national organization across the country. We believe in active lifestyles, lifelong learning, and volunteer engagement. So as you're plugging in all these things and you're growing and aging, how can we do that successfully? And that is what we look to do to serve in our Indianapolis community. We've been in the community for since 1991. Our average participant is 72, and over 80% of Oasis participants are women. And we serve kindergartners through 3rd grade through our tutoring program. We offer all different kinds of programs. Lifelong learning topics include art, entertainment, current events, history, literature, technology, social engagement, civic engagement, science, medicine, and more. Our Connections program is a technology program that helps participants overcome fears and builds confidence in using internet, apps, devices. We have a sharp focus on preventing cybercrime, scams, and frauds. And we are actively training older adults to engage with Oasis over Zoom. And that's been a big thing for us all here in the pandemic era, right? Exercise and health programs. Programs to enhance the health and the well-being of older adults. These include evidence-based and research-informed programs that address chronic health conditions and falls prevention. Exercise classes that meet older adults where they are in terms of with their physical ability and confidence that also builds relationships amongst their cohorts. Health education and habit change programs that improve health outcomes. Intergenerational tutoring. We have been tutoring in the school districts for several years. And it has been such a rewarding opportunity. Pre-COVID, we were in I think we were in 7 school districts with about 500 tutors meeting with children one-on-one once a week. We've taken a hard shift on that now that we're navigating through this pandemic. But I'm proud to announce that we have 3 school districts right now, Lawrence Township, Washington Township, and Pike, that we are working with right now, which I find extremely amazing with where we are in this pandemic. We pair with children in grades K through 3 to help students get back on track in reading. Literacy improvement is a goal and tracked outcome of the program, but mentorship is also an important part of the tutoring. What we found is that often a child who maybe frequently misses school rarely misses when their tutor is going to be showed up. They're going to make sure they're there and maybe dress the very best dress that they can. And it's that great relationship bonding and that reading. Often those children maybe never experienced lap reading, maybe never had a grandparent or a parent that was able to sit and read with that child as they were growing before school. So we're really proud of that opportunity that we can provide to Oasis members. Collaborative partners is how we operate. So you find us in churches, community buildings. We partner with libraries, the YMCAs. You can find your Oasis all over. I will say that many of the presenters today have been a great resource for Oasis to provide their presentations to our members. And so we love to be able to work with Alzheimer's Association, CICOA, and on and on. And I've seen several friends out there, SHIP and all. I mean, that is a way for us to promote that lifelong learning, to keep people engaged, to keep them relevant, and that constant learning. Brings me to the volunteerism. Oasis would not exist if we did not have volunteers. And I feel like that often, and there's nothing wrong with this, but that what I discovered in Oasis is that volunteers are often recruited for this outcome, for that child to help them with reading, or for to serve a meal, or deliver whatever that is. And that is wonderful. We want those positive outcomes. But what I learned over my years at Oasis is that we really focus on that older adult volunteer, ensuring that they have the best experience possible, so that the reward is not only to that recipient, but to that giver who is dedicating their time, talent, and treasures, as Tarek said. And so it's been a very rewarding career for me, as I have watched firsthand starting in my almost 40s with Oasis to now my 60 plus, and working and watching people age successfully through Oasis. I have a volunteer who just recently sent me a note. This volunteer is meeting some real health challenges and reflecting on his life and his life's work and his family and friends. And I felt that this was really appropriate, so I'd like to share. He thanked me and the organization and went on and talked about all the great people that he'd met and the laughs and the friendships and the fun and support that he had experienced while volunteering at Oasis. And then he said, the opportunity to serve something bigger than myself. And I thought, that's it. Successful aging, giving, and doing something bigger than yourself. I believe that's successful aging. So, does anybody have any questions? No? Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I'll take all my goodies back so I can survive.
Thank you again, Angela. That was wonderful. Appreciate you bringing all your props in the in the process of that. So we're coming to our break time now. So the break will be for about 15 minutes. And I just have one little quick story that I'm going to tell you. There was a story about a young man who had a really beautiful heart. And his heart was nice and shiny. It was red. It didn't have any lumps in it or anything. And he bragged about his beautiful heart. And people would look at it and they go, wow, that is a beautiful heart that you have. And he was like, yes, and I'm proud of my beautiful heart. So he, wore his heart with pride. Then this older gentleman came up to him and he said, well, my heart doesn't look like that. And he was like, well, why? He said, well, my heart has a few lumps in it. It has some missing spaces. It has some pieces stuck in there that don't really fit like they used to. Because I've given my heart to people, I've had relationships with people, and some people have taken from my heart, but some have given things to my heart. My heart has been broken, and you can see the wounds of that. He said, but it's been fulfilling for me to feel that my heart still has been shared with others. So the young man looked at him and he was like, so you don't want the beautiful heart that I have? He's like, no, I'm content with the heart that I have. So the young man took a piece of his heart and put it in the older gentleman's heart, and he said, now I'm satisfied and I'm going to live like you. So I hope today we'll start to feel that way, that we have things that we can offer other people and we just need to take the chance. So enjoy the break. Please see our vendors, and then we'll have you come back in at 10:20. Thank you. And I told you where the restrooms are. I know people will be looking. There's some out there and there's some around the corner past the vendors. Our next presenters are from CICOA, from our Meals department, our Meals and More department. So we have Tiffany Cox, who is a registered dietitian, and Kristen Phelps, who is an AmeriCorps Vista. So we're here in AmeriCorps in a different way, right? Nutrition and Dementia Services Coordinator. So they're going to come now.
Well, good morning, everyone. Tristan and I are thrilled to be here today. I am Tiffany Cox, the registered dietitian at CICOA in the Meals and More department, and we're here to talk to you today about food security and nutrition for a healthy body and mind. So I'll let Kristen go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Like Tiffany said, I'm Kristen. I'm an AmeriCorps Vista member with CICOA, and I'm serving as the Nutrition and Dementia Services Coordinator. So working with both Meals and More and Dementia Friends Indiana. But today I'm here to talk about a little bit about the Meals and More department and a few of the programs that we offer so that you're aware for yourselves or for others, and just have a greater understanding of what Meals and More is really about. All right. So as you can see, we'll go over 4 of the food services and programs that we offer very briefly here. And the first one is home delivered meals. So these are frozen meals that are delivered on a biweekly basis to our clients. And there's 10 meals per delivery. And these meals are nutritious because they are planned by a professional nutrition staff, including chef for hire, and within the Meals More department. So they are very nutritionally focused. And the eligibility for the home delivered meals is typically someone who is homebound and unable to prepare their own meals, or have limited mobility or support systems. And they meet the following criteria, which is at least 60 years or older, or the spouse of someone who is 60 years old or older. We also offer neighborhood meal sides. This is something that you may not be aware of. These are hot meals served at sites across central Indiana, and they are lunch sites that are served Monday through Friday. And there are various locations, so they can be at senior centers. I know there's a library that serves them. Some apartment complexes even have these neighborhood meal sites. And it's for those at least 60 years of age and older, and they include that much needed social interaction. So yes, it's about the nutrition and providing that meal, that hot meal during the week, but it's also about the social interaction and coming together and talking and meeting other people as well. We also have vouchers, and these vouchers are for participating restaurants, cafeterias, and even hospital cafeterias as well. And participants can have up to 8 vouchers per month, and it's to give more flexible dining options. And those are for people aged 60 and over as well. And finally, we have the Commodities Supplemental Food Program, or a CSFP as we call it. And it's a partnership between CICOA and the Indiana State Department of Health. And this program helps provide boxes of non-perishable food items to folks. You know, eligibility is based on age, income, and residency, so it can vary. But these boxes the point of them is to help fill in the gaps of some meals that may be missing. So think of like canned food that you can reach for and grab. They include like juices, for example, or cold cereal, just to fill in those gaps of meals that may be missing. So this is an example of the brochure that we have that explains all of these programs. And this brochure is available at our table out near the front door. So please come by if you have more questions about these programs. We'd love to talk with you. And now Tiffany will be going over some fun things here, which are different quick and healthy go-to meals and some nutrition behind them.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, like I said earlier, we are really excited to be here today. And so now that you've learned a little bit about the ways that you can fill your nutrition through our services at CICOA, I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition and mental health, because that has been a topic that has come up a lot over the past year and a half through the pandemic. So it's really important for you to keep in mind your nutrition, and especially on those days when you're just kind of feeling down and you might be feeling kind of sluggish, or maybe you just don't have the motivation to put, you know, a lot of cooking or effort into your nutrition, into your food choices and things like that. So as far as your mind and your gut, those are very connected. There's a lot of study around the mind-gut connection. And so it's important to fill your days with lots of nutritious foods so that you can also feel energetic and not allow that brain fog and that sluggishness to, you know, add to your mental health if you're having a rough day. I know sometimes those are times that it can be really tough to make those healthy food choices, but it's going to actually make you feel better and more energetic if you choose like the complex carbs over the more simple sugars and things like that. It's going to make you feel more energetic and less sluggish. They have shown that fried foods and those types of things can really make you feel kind of down, even more so down in the dumps. and not getting all the nutrients you need can also add to that as well. And a lot of times people feel like, you know, if I'm down in the dumps, how am I going to eat healthy? Because I really just don't have the energy to put into cooking and all of that kind of stuff. So that's why I wanted to show you that there's lots of quick and easy things that you can put together that have all the nutrition that you need to feel energetic and avoid that brain fog that sometimes comes with eating fried foods or eating super sugary foods like candy, soft drinks, or things like that. So making sure that you're getting those in is really helpful. So you want to concentrate on complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, heart healthy fats, omega-3s, and making sure you're getting those B vitamins in, because those are really important for mental health, as well as calcium and vitamin D, and a lot of the things that you can get through dairy foods. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So we have a few different examples of easy ways that you can get that good nutrition in. And the first one is breakfast foods. You can, oh, I saw this here. So as far as breakfast foods are concerned, there's different things that we can start with, and these can also work easily for snacks as well. So if you choose oats as your base, that's going to have your complex carbohydrates, and it's also very easy to prepare. And yogurt can be a base as well, or it can be combined with the oats. If you want to do like an overnight oats, you can actually combine the oats and the yogurt and whatever fruit you have on hand, and put that in the refrigerator overnight, and then it's ready to go in the morning. So there's really not even any cooking involved with it. So it can be a super easy way to get those nutrients in, and so that you have the energy to get through the day, especially if you know that you're going to have a rough day or you're kind of just feeling down. These nutrients will help you to not add to that and not feel sluggish. So, and there's lots of different choices. You can fit them to your preferences. So if you prefer berries or bananas or apples or whatever type of fruit that you have on hand, you can use frozen fruits, canned fruits, and really make it work to whatever you happen to have on hand. And then you can also add some other components to make it a little bit more interesting. If you like coconut or cinnamon, cinnamon is really a great one to use if you're trying to avoid sugar, because it gives you the sweet taste. And then if you like something crunchy, or you're feeling like you need a little pizzazz with that, you can add some nuts or some seeds, which are also going to be a great source of your omega-3 fatty acids as well. So those are just some easy tips that you can use either for your breakfast or really even any time of the day. A lot of times I'll have clients say, well, I really don't like breakfast. That's fine. If you don't like breakfast foods, you can have lunch foods for breakfast. There's no rules about that. The point is just to make sure that you're getting in those nutritious foods in, and wrapping them around your preferences as well. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is some lunch ideas. So again, if, sometimes we have difficulty if we're living by ourselves and we, make a big meal and then we have all these leftovers and we don't know what to do with them. And we don't want to eat the same thing all the time. And that's okay. You can repurpose your lean chicken from the night before or your beans, put them together in a whole wheat wrap, and get in your veggies in the wrap as well. This can be leftover veggies from the night before. It can be your salad, or it can even be canned foods like corn or salsa, brown rice, hummus, those kinds of things. And again, you can use your preferences and whatever you have on hand. If you have canned foods and you're trying to make them less sodium, you can just rinse those. Because sometimes they do charge you a little bit extra at the grocery store for those higher sodium or for the regular canned foods. And even nowadays, sometimes it's difficult to find the low sodium foods on the shelf. So if you go ahead and rinse those, it can actually save you 40% of the sodium. So that is an easy tip that can help you save some money as well. The next thing that we're going to talk about is some dinner options. So I chose salmon and tilapia because these, again, are going to be great sources of lean protein to keep you feeling energetic, as well as giving you those heart healthy fats. So that depending on what you have in the house, those can be your lean protein source. And again, whatever veggies that you prefer, if you're not feeling like chopping up a bunch of vegetables, grabbing some frozen mixed vegetables from your freezer can be a great choice, as well as if it's running towards the end of the month and you only have canned available, again, you can rinse those and those can be a good choice as well. So just putting that together with maybe you even have some leftover salad from the night before to round off the meal. So these are ways that you can really, simply get in good nutrition. You can also do smoothies if you're not feeling like cooking, and making sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables in that way. And that's another great way to get in your yogurt as well, which is great for your gut health. So that's gonna help your mind as well. The last one is just a little fun thing that we can do. So depending on, what sort of produce you have in the house, you can do apples, or with this idea, you could also do pears. And then there's various ways that you can prepare the apples. You can do them in the microwave, or you can do them in the oven. Obviously, the oven's going to take a little bit longer to bake, but in the microwave, that can be done pretty quickly. If you'd rather do it on the stove top, you can do it that way as well. Just slice the apple, put on your toppings, cinnamon, pinch of brown sugar, maybe a little maple syrup, and that can be a delicious dessert that also has great nutrients. So these are just some simple ways to get in the nutrition you need to stay healthy and mentally strong as well. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about today is some items that we have available for you at our resource table as well. And they are the caregiver nutrition tip sheets. And we have lots of choices at our table, and these were designed more for caregivers to help them if they're caring for someone that needs their extra little help. Unfortunately, sometimes as caregivers, we tend to not take such great care of ourselves. So these tip sheets are also to help remind us to take care of ourselves and our own health and our own nutrition as well. So that's just important to keep in mind. But these tip sheets can be found on our website as well as our resource table. So if you need information about that, please see us at our table and we can talk to you about that as well. And then I'm going to invite Kristen to come back and talk a little bit about the next topic.
Yes, very briefly, we just wanted to make you aware of something called Community Compass. So Community Compass is not something that CICOA developed, but it is a very helpful resource when we are talking about food security. And Community Compass is actually both an app on your phone and also a website. And it will help you or someone that you know find food resources within Marion County. And they're also expanding that out as we speak. And it will help you find places that will accept SNAP, places that will accept WIC, and also food pantries and hot meal sites as well. And so there's a whole database behind this and can give you accurate information on who's eligible for those services, where they are located, when they're open, anything that you need to be successful in finding services. This app or website will help. So you can find this in the App Store, or you can go on communitycompass.app and explore that online as well. Do we have any questions, very briefly?
Sure. And that's an interesting point. Depending on, you know, if your goal is to gain weight or lose weight, you definitely want to look at the components of your smoothie. If you're trying to not get too many calories, then you can use your base as water and ice and still add those fruits and vegetables in, and it's going to be more like, you know, a fruit smoothie texture. But if you're trying to get more calories in, maybe you're trying to get calories into a loved one that's not eating well, then you can use lots of different dairy choices that are going to add calories for that. So it can be, you can use milk. If someone's, you know, not eating, I would say whole milk would be your best option. You can add Greek yogurt for good protein. You can even add ice cream if you're having a hard time getting the person to eat, and then putting other fruits, vegetables, peanut butter, whatever you need to put in there, even oatmeal if you want to really bulk the person up and you're having difficulty getting calories in them. So it just kind of depends on, you know, what your goals are. If you're just trying to get in some fruits and vegetables and you don't really want to add a ton of calories, then you want to stick with more like the ice and the skim milk and that for your base. Did that answer your question? You're welcome. Any other questions for today? Awesome. Well, you guys were a great crowd. And again, we're thrilled to be here today. If you think of anything else, feel free to find us out at the exhibit table. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much, Tiffany and Kristen, for that information. And they have a beautiful basket at their table that they're giving away today too. So that's another thing to think about. I had my oatmeal at 6 a.m. this morning, so I'll be ready for lunch. But now we have Dr. Janetta Brown coming from IU School of Medicine, and she's going to tell us about Buddy, who is an avatar for people who have been diagnosed with mental cognitive issues.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Dr. Janetta Brown. I'm the research manager for the Care Coach study that we're conducting at IU School of Medicine. So far, we've heard a lot of information about aging in place, aging safely, having social support, and nutrition, and how all of those are great components for providing care, for enriching oneself, and for building up your own self-efficacy as well. So I'm kind of geared more towards caregivers and those who have loved ones who might be affected by dementia. And this includes Alzheimer's, frontotemporal dementia, Parkinson's disease, pretty much all related dementias. So a little bit about me. I am the research manager I mentioned before at IU School of Medicine. I'm an industrial and systems engineer, and my focus has always been human factors, human-computer interaction, and mobile health or health information technology. So you might be wondering, how in the world do I go from engineering and mathematics and physics to the healthcare industry? In earning my PhD, well, go to the next slide. Alzheimer's disease affects me too. So I'm half pictured here on the left, both of my grandmothers that I lost to Alzheimer's disease. And watching my family and being a caregiver myself, I was able to see how my family contended with chronic disease management, went through that journey and of not having enough information, feeling under supported, and just looking for different resources that were available to us. So I was trying to find ways to provide this type of information to other families at large who are also contending with dementia. And so one thing that I noticed, the biggest difference between both grandmothers was the level of social support that both of them had. Grandma Marie on the left, she lived with us. So she was involved in all of our family activities, all the holidays, all the vacations. We would cook together. I learned many of her recipes before she passed, thankfully. So I'm able to carry on that legacy. But in the middle, Grandma Esther, she lived alone. She didn't have as much social support or social interaction that Grandma Marie had. And so Grandma Esther was institutionalized way sooner. She went into assisted living years, maybe a decade before Grandma Marie went or was institutionalized. And so I think for me, the biggest difference that I can attest to is the level of social support that each of them had. So I had a quick question for the audience. What are challenges that you all know of that families experience who are affected by dementia? I can give a quick example. Oh, no, we have a hand. Communication, yep, that's one. Any other volunteers? I would say I've noticed a lot of repetitive questions between both grandmothers. I've noticed changes in their behavior, changes in their mood and eating patterns. My grandmother on the left, Grandma Marie, she had a sweet tooth. We couldn't get her to eat anything else. So I know the two women who just talked about nutrition, she loved ice cream, candy, cookies. That's what she went for, and a lot less vegetables and fruits. So we always had to find creative ways to get her that nutrition. I saw another hand. Also a good one, yes. And I think you had your hand up in the front. Oh, there we go. That is true. Accusations are another big one. And so let me move on to the next screen. This tablet helps to mitigate all of those issues that we just mentioned. The repetitive questions, the accusations, feelings of depression or anxiety, a myriad of issues that are exhibited by individuals who have dementia can be handled and, supported or combated through the use of this tablet. So what you see here in the middle is the tablet that we provide to individuals who have been diagnosed with dementia. On the screen is a cute puppy named Buddy, who talks to them throughout the day and literally keeps them company, keeps them engaged, keeps them social, keeps them active, keeps them safe throughout the day. So it's a kind of a supplementary caregiver to help alleviate some of the stress that caregivers go through. For instance, another challenge that I've noticed in talking with different families is the caregivers often worried about leaving their loved one at home by themselves. I know with my grandmother, if anyone left the room, she was always wondering where they went. Where are you? Why, trying to call their loved ones. Some might wander out of the house. So now, and to some degree, you can have Buddy as kind of that social companion or company that your loved one can have with them at all times. So I'll go over a few of the features and what our platform is like. So as you can see, there are 0 buttons to push. So the individual with dementia does not need to be technologically savvy. It's mostly voice activated. You just pet Buddy on the head to wake him up. Also, this tablet links the individual or the family to a larger network of support. So they're linked to the Care Coach program, where you have health advocates who are trained according to Alzheimer's Association, HIPAA, and nursing standards to implement a lot of different health-related protocols to help support that individual. When we enroll them, Buddy asks a ton of questions to get to know your loved one on a personal level. So all about their health. Do they need help managing type 2 diabetes or hypertension? Do they have a emergency medical response device that they use? Do they use a walker or a cane? Because Buddy will remind them to age in place safely and keep them as independent as possible. Let me keep it moving. I do have a quick video, but I did not test out the audio, so I'll save it till the end. Okay, well, I'll come back to it if there's time. Some more capabilities of the product. Buddy plays games, he reads books, he plays music. A lot of you all heard my pitch outside. What's really cool is setting reminders. So I know someone mentioned reminding your loved one to take their medication. So you just tell Buddy the days and times that your loved one takes their medication, and he'll wake right up and remind them and make sure, or ask them if they've taken it. So it's just a way to alleviate a lot of the responsibilities or tasks that the caregiver has to do on a daily basis. What's another cool one? Buddy tells jokes. The person who has dementia. This slide just kind of summarizes the impact that this product has had on the community, how it has improved people's quality of life and helped alleviate burden or stress that caregivers experience on a daily basis. I'm telling you, I know firsthand how difficult it can be to manage two different loved ones who have dementia. I've met a lot of caregivers who actually care for more than one person, as well as their own dependents in their own families. So yes, advancing community support and access to customized resources, addressing and reducing any family burden or stress, and creating an opportunity for inclusion for those who are underrepresented. Last slide, this is our team. We have Andrea right here in this, you can wave. So I work with different students, different research assistants, and collaborate with different organizations to help us spread the word about this opportunity. And that was my last slide. Okay. Do we have any questions? Yes. Yes. So it is available commercially. For those who participate in our study, they do receive a discount for the cost of the product or of the service. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but yes, it is possible to continue to have that resource in your family. Yes. Yes, they can. So we work with those who have mild to moderate stages of dementia. If they live in a nursing home, assisted living facility, those are all, that's perfectly fine. We come to wherever the family is. We try to enroll groups of people at the same time for convenience, but yes, we can come to that facility and provide the tablet there. Yes. We ask that the participants are within the state of Indiana. So far, I think the farthest we've driven is maybe a 2-hour radius outside of Indianapolis, but typically no further than that in case anything needs to be replaced, or say if the tablet falls and it cracks, we can bring you another one, no problem. That being said, because we kind of cater or do curbside service, we just try to keep it within 2 hours outside of Indianapolis. Yes. Me too. Our goal is to enroll 200 families, and I think right now we still need another 80 or so. So there's room. If you all know of any families who have been affected by dementia and any patients who might be successful using the tablet, let me know. We are the table near the front door with the balloons. Any other questions? Yes. I don't know if there are any that are like our study. I know there are other studies related to Alzheimer's and dementia as well in other states. I think we were connected to a few, some in New York, some in Iowa, other neighboring states, but that's all that I can share for now. All right, well, if there aren't any, I'll give it back to Denise. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janetta. Really appreciate that. And Buddy is pretty incredible. So if you get a chance to go by the table and just check it out, it's great. She's come to some of my caregiver groups and people have accessed Buddy. And so it's great to have something that they can just work with without all of the other tools of being on a computer or something like that. So the screen works really great for them. So now we're moving into the importance of cognitive maintenance and in volunteering. So we have Melinda Winnie, who is with our Dementia Friends Indiana program through CICOA.
Good morning still. You guys, you can all call me Mindy. I am the Dementia Program Supervisor at CICOA, which you should be very familiar with after today's event. So thank you all for being here. And I just told Denise, I think I'm going to reiterate what so many other folks have shared with you today. And really it is just this importance of volunteering and finding something meaningful and purposeful in our lives and how that might have a benefit on our brains. So let's go ahead and move forward. And I do apologize if some of this information's already been repeated, especially by the Alzheimer's Association. But when we're talking about brain health and cognitive health, really what that means is how well our brain is functioning across many different areas. And so when I'm talking about cognitive health, what I'm really talking about here is how well our brains can think clearly, how well we're able to learn information and also be able to recall and remember that information. With those other different functionalities, I think they kind of speak for themselves. You know, with emotional and tactile, that's really our brain's ability to understand and respond to emotional and sensations of touch. With the motor, that is really controlling and making movements, balance, our mobility. So again, our brain health, there's so many different functions within the brain, but I think I'm going to zero in on, again, that cognitive health. And why is this so important to keep in mind? You know, again, thinking clearly, being able to remember information, being able to take in new information, those play essential roles in our activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living, simply getting ourselves up out of bed, getting dressed, making ourselves a meal, driving to where we need to be. So again, our cognitive health plays a pretty vital role in being able to carry out those everyday activities. So I don't really love the wordage I've used here with normal and abnormal, but what I'm really trying to get towards here is just helping folks recognize that as we age, our brains change, and they're going to change differently from one person to another. So many of us are going to experience age-related changes. We're going to notice that we start to slow down a little bit as we process information. You know, maybe we just don't respond as quickly as we once did. Maybe we forget the names of people that we've met recently. But that's very different compared to maybe not recognizing a family member or somebody that's very close to us. So again, some age-related changes. And I'm not going to go into each of these different ones, but I do want to focus on Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias. And again, just why it's so important for us to kind of keep that top of mind and why should we get ourselves involved and stay connected and keep our minds active. Now, Alzheimer's disease and other dementias are the most feared health conditions in our country, and that is amongst all ages, and rightfully so. You know, what we know about it doesn't really seem too hopeful. You know, we know there's not a cure and there's not treatment, but I'll get to hopefully some good news here in a moment. But just to bring us all on the same page, and Dr. Brown was just talking a lot about dementia and some of those other types of dementia. But just to try to put it in layman's terms for you all, when we talk about dementia, what we're really referring to is a collection of symptoms. So those symptoms may look like memory loss. Again, you know, that's very different than being forgetful. That is, again, maybe not recognizing familiar folks, our family members, our close friends, neighbors. It may impact our ability to use language to communicate with others. It may also impact our visual perception, our mood, our behaviors. So again, this can look different for each person. But one thing I do want to stress is that dementia is not inevitable as we age. We will not all develop dementia as we grow older. So I hope that has instilled a little bit of hope into you today. So there's no magic pill, unfortunately. There's no magic formula to prevent Alzheimer's disease or other related dementias that we know at this point. But again, as so many folks have touched on today, we do have some things in our control. There are some healthy lifestyle behaviors that if we implement those on a consistent basis into our routine, we may see some of those benefits cognitively. So I, again, want to kind of focus on two aspects. So again, all of these behaviors are great, and I think our speakers have done a great job really touching on those. But let's kind of talk about just the importance of keeping our mind active. I think we've heard people say that to us so many times. Oh, just play a game. I know Luminosity and some of those other programs used to be really, really popular and widely talked about. But what I want to challenge you all with is thinking about a new hobby to get yourselves into. I don't think we really understand how valuable or how beneficial it can be for us to engage in new tasks or new activities. Something as simple as you can try this tomorrow or even tonight as you're going to bed. Switch your hand that you brush your teeth with, you know? Instead of using your dominant hand to brush your teeth, switch it over, try something new. Maybe you try that as you're writing a letter. So again, simple challenges to our brain like that can really help us stay intact. So I want to highlight that, you know, community college, especially here in Indianapolis, there's a number of different campuses that may offer courses. Our local libraries, community centers, and our senior centers, they offer tremendous programming for a variety of ages, but especially for our older adults. And so maybe check that out, you know, after you leave here today, or keep that in mind that, you know, I might consider taking up a new hobby that I've never allowed myself the opportunity to do. And what I did find, just kind of going through some research, I found that there was a study where they took a group of older adults, and they found that those older adults who had engaged on a pretty regular basis with quilting and digital photography, they found that those folks did have improvements with their memory. And again, just being able to recall information faster and process information faster. So again, just by taking up a new hobby and challenging themselves. But then, you know, just kind of the theme of the day, volunteering. And there's so many different opportunities to get involved. And again, with our Senior Buddies program, friendly phone conversations with folks. I do have a colleague at CICOA who, in her previous role, she had agreed to make phone calls to a woman who had just been settled into an assisted living facility. So she's still one of our clients at CICOA, But her son, kind of like how we've been talking about this companionship and keeping these folks engaged. So the son was just looking for someone to make friendly phone calls to her. And so she has been doing that now for over a year. My coworker's been calling this woman, and she says, she's starting to kind of pick up on the deterioration. But both of them look forward to that phone call, and they just laugh and they talk about her service dog. And I just thought, wow, just a simple thing, a simple favor we think we're doing for somebody. And again, just this, this meaning and this valuable relationship that's really blossomed out of just doing somebody a favor. I love the Senior Companions Program, the RSVP, and in the research I was doing, just preparing for this conversation, that's where some of the actual research comes from, is from those AmeriCorps programs and really being able to show the impact that does have on our brains. So I think the biggest thing that volunteering can do for our cognitive abilities is just staying connected, feeling like we matter in our communities still. And again, I think we've heard that that's not just from the person who is receiving that support or is receiving that time from the volunteer. It's really a two-way street. And so social isolation, especially when we talk about dementia, I think that's probably one of the greatest impacts that these folks and also their care partners are dealing with. It's just feeling like they are kind of in this island by themselves and not knowing who to turn to. So just providing those opportunities to, again, build meaningful relationships with people. I just wish that we shared more about this, and I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to be with you today, and for all the other speakers that have just kind of echoed these same points. So, but in the research that I was talking about with the AmeriCorps programs, they did find significant findings that I want to say about 2/3 or so of the volunteers that were involved within their first year, they had reported, entering that volunteer role feeling socially isolated, not feeling like they were engaged in their community. And 2/3 of those folks after a year reported no longer feeling that social isolation. I believe there were a number of folks anywhere from 60 to 70% of folks who did see a reduction in their depressive symptoms. So again, this is significant. So just to put a little plug out there and just to kind of tie this together, and what I hope will tie it all together, I want to stress that, even if we do develop dementia or some kind of cognitive impairment, it's still so essential for us to stay engaged. And so that's where I feel like Dementia Friends Indiana kind of comes into play. What we are out in the communities doing is really just providing folks of all community sectors with an opportunity to understand what dementia is and how we can support those folks, understanding how we can communicate with these folks in a way that works for them. And so I think, again, this can be an opportunity. We'd love to have you volunteer, but more than anything, I would love for you to attend a Dementia Friends session and understand how you can better engage with these folks. And then I hope that empowers you to seek out opportunities to volunteer, to work with people with dementia, or to work with their caregivers. Because again, just because we have this diagnosis doesn't mean that we deserve to just be shoved away and kind of forgotten about. So I just want you to keep in mind that there is this program that does exist. We work with faith communities, local libraries, even your grocery stores. We'd love to get in there, your banks. I mean, just think about this area right here and all that's involved. How can we bring those folks together to really come together to understand what our roles are in making these folks, still feel engaged and connected in their communities? So despite that diagnosis, again, we're striving to provide opportunities for these folks to connect. So you may start to hear a little bit more about memory cafes, and I've got some information at my booth about memory cafes. And really what these are meant to be are just social gatherings for people living with dementia, and then whoever they wish to bring with them. So that could be a spouse, a family member, a neighbor, someone from church. But again, we're just trying to provide these meaningful outings for people to come out of their homes and to engage with people who are in similar situations. But the focus of our time together is not to talk about the dementia or the challenges going on, but to really be able to just engage in that fellowship with one another. And so oftentimes, as you can see, and I've got Becky sitting in front of me who works closely with Dementia Friends, but the University of Indianapolis, we've been hosting a drive-in concert series. And so folks can drive in just like they're at a drive-in movie theater, and they can listen to students out of the jazz band and the pep band play music for them. And so again, it's really just meant to be an opportunity to kind of squash that stigma that we have around dementia and to show these folks that they deserve to have that independence and a good quality of life despite their diagnosis. So I will go ahead and, well, I've got one more thing, just a quick little visual. I think some of you might be feeling a little overwhelmed after today, hopefully in a positive way. But I want you feeling overwhelmed with, wow, there's so many opportunities, not only to get involved, but there's so many opportunities to just improve our overall health. And so again, I think just to stress to you that small, consistent changes, healthy changes can really add up to make a big difference. And I kind of adopt that same mentality with Dementia Friends, you know, just reaching out to folks and taking small actions as Dementia Friends can collectively make a big impact on these folks and their families. So any questions, concerns, anything at all? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 Thank you for bringing that back up. It's a little bit of a sore spot in my heart. I think I will share that. So the gentleman who had approached us, it's been about 2 years ago, he approached us with the idea. So he kind of modeled this out of a choir out of Minnesota. And so brought the idea to us, and you know, we kind of made it all come together. And I'm so sad to say that he moved to Atlanta, Georgia. So right at the start of the pandemic, we got through, he had just started his spring workshop with those folks, and then had an opportunity to move his family down south to take care of his aging parents. And so it all kind of came full circle. But yes, that is something that, gosh, we definitely need to get on finding somebody who has those talents, because just to see how many folks came out just for that first little go around, I think we had 20 folks or so involved in that. And just as somebody who was at that performance that they put on, oh my gosh, it just, I could go on and on and on about just the power of being in that room. But thanks for putting that back on my radar. But yeah, I do know that there are in other states, some of those popping up. And I do even think out of Bloomington, they've got a choir. I think it's more for people living with dementia versus with the caregivers. But I do think that, absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. And that's just one big thing to stress with the memory cafes is they all go through the Dementia Friends session. And that's kind of first and foremost is we want folks when they come to those memory cafes for them to not feel judged for what they're dealing with, for them to feel welcome. And exactly, we'll just let it roll right off our shoulders if somebody's told us the same story 20 different times. It's happened at memory cafes, but again, we all just let it roll off, so. Yeah. Yeah. And my mom. Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, you're right. And I know we've got a mountain of work to do ahead of us, but that's what we're trying to strive for is for all of us to just say, who cares? You know, who cares? They're dealing with a brain disease. Who cares? So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Becky. Yes. Yes, yes, and I've got the, yes, flyers out at the booth. Thank you for that, Becky. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I think Denise is kicking me off the stage, so.
Thank you so much, Mindy. Rich conversation with that. So I was just told that probably people that are listening in can't hear the question, so we may need to start moving a mic around. Or if you're presenting, just repeat the question. And that may be the easiest way so that we can make sure that people are hearing that. So now we're going to have our volunteer panel. Liz Todd and Joellen Clark are going to come. And Liz is a volunteer, has been a volunteer with Joy's House. And then Joellen has her shirt on. So she's a AmeriCorps senior volunteer. So they're going to come up and talk about their volunteer experience. And each of you will have a mic. The mics are already on. So they're just going to tell you at first a little bit about themselves and how they came to volunteer at the agencies that they're volunteering with.
My name is Liz Todd, and I worked for Joy's House for 11 years at the financial end of things, and then retired in 2019, and really wasn't doing much of anything. I still volunteer with Joy's House on the finance committee, but our neighborhood network in my area, I'm in Hamilton County, advertise, do you have any spare time? Would you like to make a couple bucks? Would you be interested in being a senior companion? I thought, well, I'm senior. And so I investigated it. And now I'm actually volunteering at a retirement home in Hamilton County. And as a senior companion, no lifting, no bodily fluids, thank you very much. But I can make someone's day. And I see different people when I do it. And one of the advice I got a couple of times was, when you go to see Miss So-and-so, she might not let you in, but just tell her you're going to clean the fridge out. So I would go to the door and knock, and she opened the door and she saw my white hair and she's, oh, come on in. So white hair is really an advantage in this position because right away we connect. And then I go in and we have conversation. I've also read Max Lucado's book, You Are Special, which has lots of pictures, and people with dementia pick up on that. And at the end of the story, there's often tears because they realize how special they are. And I do, if I think that God is in their life, which is always my goal, that God would be in their lives, I'll ask, can I pray with you? Oh, I would love that. And so one lady who has Alzheimer's, she was lying in bed and I prayed with her, and she said afterwards, she just reared up and said, no one has ever done that. Thank you. So that was a real blessing. And then I have another gentleman I was with last night, and our big thing is we watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy together, and we try and guess all the answers. And I told him one day we are going to turn that Wheel of Fortune. So we have a great time together. This has morphed into another friend whose husband died and she's unable to drive. So I am her driver. And I'm also her best friend. And then another person from my church, the family has asked me to be with their mom. And that's a special time that I have with her. And sometimes, you know, I'm going to be 77 here in a minute, but I think, why are you doing this? Wouldn't you just like to stay home? And as I'm driving, and then when I'm driving home afterwards, I think, that's why you're doing this. It's a blessing, and we are blessed to be a blessing. So I strongly volunteer or recommend anybody who would care to just spend a few hours. I don't spend a lot of hours, probably maybe 5 hours a week, maybe 10, depending on the need. But it's so rewarding, and it makes you feel like you're worthwhile and you're making someone's day. If I can make them laugh or tell a silly joke, or I've even done a dance, which really is hilarious. So whatever it takes, you can do to make their day. So that's who I am and what I do. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate that. Joella?
I talk loud. I'm Joellen Clark, and I'm a retired nurse who worked over 40 years in critical care. And I took care of both of my parents, who I had to move up here from Evansville, and they were well into their 90s, I mean, close to 100. And so I was their caregiver for about 11 years while working full time. And I did develop some health issues. And after my dad passed, I retired early. And my mom was the one that had the dementia. And I did a little volunteering when I first retired, but then my mom passed away and I vegetated for probably a good 6 months. I've known Denise for a number of years, and she's the lady that hooked me up with RSVP, because how many times have you heard somebody say, when you retire, you need something to retire to? And me being a nurse and being in critical care, I'm such an advocate for people, and I needed to do something. So after 6 months of vegetating, I decided I needed to get up out of the chair. My parents were very active in their church, and a lot of my volunteer work I do because I am a nurse and I want to give. And the other part of it is that I do it to honor my parents. My mom was always there for anybody in church, so that's what I do. Most of my volunteer work has been in the healthcare field. I have volunteered at Joy's house also. And I do a walking program through A Caring Place, which is located within Fairview Presbyterian Church. And these are clients that, for the most part, have a form of dementia. And we know that walking mobility is important to the elderly. You need to keep them walking as long as you can. And so I do this walking program, and I do monitor them health-wise, their heart rates, their oxygen level, and that. I volunteer at the crisis office downtown, where we have a food pantry and we have a clothing, they can get clothing down there. I've also volunteered through Genezareth, which is a free clinic. We have many locations throughout in the Indianapolis area. And it was actually founded by a cardiologist that I knew back in the 1980s. And it's just excellent. Something that, if anybody's interested for a one-time volunteer thing, is the crisis office downtown has a Christmas store, which I volunteer at that also. And it's just a really neat thing to give to people. And I think that's what is important. I mean, we're not only giving a service to these people, but I get so much more. The lady that spoke about Oasis, yeah, I did the tutoring through the reading, and I sorely missed that connection with the little kids and reading. So, my primary thing was that I needed to get out there and give the services that I have. I love people, I love older people, and I love to talk. So, that's why I volunteer.
Great. Well, you both have done a perfect job. I was looking at the questions I sent you. I was like, they answered all of the questions all at once. So does anybody have any questions for our volunteers? And why they volunteer?
During COVID, so many of these people are so isolated. You might live in the most beautiful apartment and be in the most wonderful building, but when you're alone, things happen. And I know that Joy's house has noticed a lot of their gas have declined. And we noticed that too at Stratford, that just the isolation is actually terrible. And we really need to help out, if we possibly can, those people who are home alone.
Yeah, I have also noticed, especially with the walking program, that, the people that were, at home during COVID, they weren't up and mobile as much. And this has just really affected them. So, yeah, it's a population that we're not reaching, because there's so much need for the elderly. They are isolated at home, and we kind of forget about them.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. That's a good point to bring up. And that's why I think even today, as we're talking about this, for people to feel more encouraged and motivated to become involved in those sense. We have a program through CICOA called Senior Buddies, where basically we're doing phone calls, reassurance phone calls, because we weren't able to go into people's homes. So yeah, so I always tell people, just give somebody a call. If you know somebody that lives alone and they're not, getting a lot of social interaction, even a telephone call, or, just going to their door and knocking on the door and just having a conversation from the porch, any of those type of things are beneficial for folks. Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing is with RSVP, when I met with Monica, I mean, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. There may be something that you're not really interested in. And, you know, yeah, I've gone and volunteered at some places and it just wasn't a fit for me. So, you know, you got to find your little niche.
Yeah, so you can volunteer one time, or you can volunteer weekly, you can volunteer, you know, as much as you want to, however you want to spend the time. And I thought it was good, Liz, that you mentioned the amount of time that you volunteer can vary from 5 hours to 10 hours a week. Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, any questions before our volunteers go? Well, thank you, ladies. We really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. So next, get ready. You're getting ready to experience something you may not have experienced before. But we have from the University of Indianapolis, Julie, tell me your name, last name. Gayheimer. She told me that earlier and I was like, I'm gonna know it for real. But we've had some great conversations together and she's gonna talk about the 9 dimensions of wellness. And then at the end, she's gonna do some laughter yoga with us. So if you've never experienced laughter yoga, get ready.
Well, thank you everyone for attending, and this has been a wonderful experience for me. I've learned a lot about the organizations that are here in Indianapolis and such. And so what we're going to talk about, and we're going to switch gears a little bit. I did want to put a plug in for Volunteer Johnson County. If anybody's from Johnson County, I was in the Leadership Johnson County program several years ago, and we were able to create a Facebook site to connect volunteers to organizations that are nonprofits in Johnson County. So VJC, Volunteer Johnson County, if you ever want to volunteer in any format. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the 9 dimensions of wellness, living a life of joy, awe, and laughter. So there's a lot of different mechanisms in which people will define the dimensions of wellness. There's some that say the 6 dimensions, the 7, the 8. But I've chosen to talk a little bit about the 9 dimensions of wellness. And I've taken the Ohio State Wellness Model, the one up on the right, and kind of broken it down. So what I think about the dimensions of wellness, I think about a pie. And this is kind of an audience participation. Which pie up there would be your favorite? Who's the cherry pie person? Who's pecan? Pumpkin? Raspberry? Sugar cream, we got them all. But what I think is that every day you wake up with a pie and you have the dimensions of the pie, there's cut into 9 pieces. And you can determine every single day how you spend that pie. And so my representation of that is a paper plate. So if I were in class at the University of Indianapolis with my students, I would say, okay, you've got the 9 dimensions of wellness that we're going to talk about. Draw where you are right now. And it's no surprise that the students will often put the intellectual or the vocational as a big chunk of their pie because they're in school. So let's go through what they are. And we're going to go through each of these just a bit in more detail than just, you know, what they are. And it's really a neat way that I think that I wake up every day and say, how am I going to spend my day today? So emotional wellness. And I put the ... meaning that you are a person who, if you have emotional wellness, has the ability to identify, express, and manage an entire range of feelings. And you might consider seeking assistance in one of those areas of concern. So emotional wellness, then you've got career wellness, and you have these guys in their older ages, I guess, continuing to work. Engages to work or maybe volunteer, engages in work to gain personal satisfaction and enrichment, pursues a career that's consistent with their values in life. And you got social wellness. And you have these ladies over here having a great time. Has a network of support based on interdependence, mutual trust, and respect. And then has developed a sensitivity and awareness toward the feeling of others. Spiritual wellness, we've talked a lot about that today with the church-based organizations
and like nursing and parish nursing and such. Seeks harmony and balance by opening, exploring the depth of human purpose, meaning, and connection. And then connects through dialogue and self-reflection. So that's the spiritual piece. We think of wellness a lot of times when we think of just the physical piece. And again, that's extremely important. And as a physical therapist, that's what people think that we do, is the physical component. But really, to really make a person well, you have to have a component of each of these in your life. And when we talk about physical, we think about sleep and diet and exercise, medical checkups, safe, healthy sexual relations, all those type of things. And these are, again, from the Ohio State dimensions of wellness. Financial wellness, have an awareness of your budget and things like that. Saves and manages money to achieve the goals that people are wanting. And then intellectual wellness, that's just values the lifelong learning that goes with, you know, the gift of years, and seeks to foster critical thinking and strives to develop moral reasoning, all that kind of thing that comes with continued lifelong learning. Creative wellness, values and actively participates in a lot of diverse type of things. And then pursues experiences. And I think I mentioned, or I think one of the gals mentioned going out and doing a different hobby and volunteering and how that is good for your brain. And then lastly, environmental wellness. And so that's kind of taking care of our ability to say we have a purpose in the world to maintain the world. And with all the climate change things that are going on, that is really in the news, and the interconnectedness that we have with nature. Everybody like to go out in nature, maybe not today so much, it's kind of dreary, but the fall for me is my favorite time of year. So those are the 9 dimensions of wellness. And so we're gonna move into joy, awe, and laughter. And I think that this little girl just displays joy. I just love this picture. Every time I see her, I'm like, oh my gosh, she is filled with joy. So I don't know if my video is gonna play. Do I need to forward it one? Yeah. You think that's gonna play? This is probably one of the funniest videos. If it won't play, you gotta go home and play it. Viral Hog, it's this little baby playing, eating from a spoon, and the mother is sneezing, and this baby is just cracking up. So I don't know if I can get it to play, and if not, I can come back later to it. There we go. Okay, so I went to the dictionary and I said, okay, let's look at joy, awe, and laughter. And I highlighted the word joy is just pure delight. Can you think of a situation in which you just had sheer delight? Maybe you ate a cookie or a piece of cake, or you saw mountains, or you saw a waterfall, or anything like that. It's delight. Awe is about wonder, and it's about just kind of the sacred and this sublime, and it's just this thing of, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And then laughter is the chuckle or the explosive vocal sound that comes with joy and awe and happiness. So we talk about mirth at times. Mirth is an emotional state of being. Humor is a psychological state, and laughter is a physical state. So in a few minutes, we're going to be doing some laughter. And the fact is that what we're going to do has nothing to do with humor whatsoever. I'm not even going to say anything. So we're going to do some exercises here in a little bit. The brain really does not know the difference between contrived laughter and real laughter. And so if we can contrive laughter, we have a flood of hormones, good hormones that go to our brain. So who wouldn't like Miracle-Gro for your brain? Exercise, it's been shown in the literature, there's a product there's a chemical that's a product of exercise called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And it's like Miracle-Gro for your brain. Now, who wouldn't like Miracle-Gro for their brain? And anybody would like that? I would say yes for me. So then joy, you can see all these words, being yourself, believing in yourself, magic, honesty, freedom. It's contagious. So when you are around someone joyful, and that baby was joyful in a physical way of laughter, you can't help but that kind of, it rubs off on you. So laughter is a primary manifestation of joy. So when people are happy, they laugh. And I hope that you'll take a little bit from this presentation in just noticing how much people laugh in a day and what makes people laugh and how contagious it is and how people get that kind of laughter from being around other people. So laughter is our outer manifestation of joy. We've got Barack Obama there, we got Ellen, we've got Mother Teresa, Anderson Cooper, Einstein, Robin Williams. These guys are really in a real funny mode, I guess, when you look at those pictures. In 2018, there was a wonderful TED Talk by Ingrid Fattel, and she had talked about the difference between joy and happiness. And the bottom line on this slide is that joy is that momentary experience. Happiness is big. And she says, in the last quote down there, she says that we as a culture are obsessed by pursuing happiness when indeed we're missing the joy along the journey. And I thought that was really an interesting thing. So happiness is how we feel over time. Joy are the little moments along the way. So if you have a chance to check out this TED Talk, it's fabulous. I think she's an artist of some sort, or an architectural engineer or something like that. But she talks about where joy hides and how to find it. That's the name of the TED Talk. But close your eyes for a minute and just think of cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C., probably. That's where the most cherry blossoms are. Bubbles, swimming pools, got kids flying around and laughing and having a great time. Tree houses, hot air balloons, googly eyes, ice cream cones. Gotta have the sprinkles, right? Is anybody a sprinkle person that really makes them happy? Rainbows, firecrackers, fireworks on the 4th of July. And so she goes on to talk about things that have patterns and round things and bright colors and symmetrical shapes and a sense of abundance and multiplicity. And I was taking a walk in my neighborhood the other day, and I was walking and there was this pine tree that had all these dripping kind of beads of water on it. It was fascinating. It was just like, wow, I would have walked past it had I not really thought consciously and intentionally about seeking joy and not missing it along the way. And so my challenge to you is to think about that a little bit. And so I'm going to move a little bit into the science of awe. And the science of awe is fairly new. People say, oh, awesome. Oh, awful. And so awe came from awful, actually. And so then it's morphed into more of a positive reaction. So if you look in at the science of psychology, and I am not a psychologist, but it will pretty much point out that the ratio of negative topics in psychology outweigh the positive. So we're looking at diseases, and in terms of what we talk about we call it healthcare, but I really, as a health practitioner, we don't do healthcare. We do disease care in our society a lot. And so there's a gradual shift to looking at the positive psychology versus disease-based, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, what is awe? The feeling of we get in the presence of something vast that challenges our understanding of the world. And people who describe awe are Ralph Waldo Emerson, John Muir, and they talk about nature a lot of times. The science of awe has been studied by Sigmund Freud and Maslow and Viktor Frankl. And if you've never read Man's Search for Meaning, that's almost quoted in almost a lot of talks I go to. But the first scientific paper on awe came out in 2003. And so that's been, that's not very long ago. And so now there's been 15 scientific papers since 2018. And this guy named Jonah Paquette, who works as a psychologist out at the Kaiser Foundation in Vallejo, California, where I happened to do a physical therapy course way back in the 80s, a 3-month course out there, and drove by that facility this past summer. I would have loved to have gone to meet him. But he did a webinar recently. He has a book called Awestruck, and it outlines every one of these type of practices of trying to find awe in your life. So awe in the present moment. And again, this is a list of 11 things he says, but kind of take them and see how you can apply them to your life. The power of lingering and slowing down and unplugging. I know people put their phone in a basket when they get home from work and they don't look at it till the next day. I can't do that. There are a lot of people who try it and they are maybe somewhat successful, but being in the present moment is really, really important. And there's an acronym that I use Lou Holtz, basically, he came up with this book and it's called Win. Well, I think that's the title of the book. And we used it in a confirmation class for teenagers. I believe it was a book written for teenagers. And the acronym is WIN. I'm like, oh, win football. That's a novel idea, but that's not what it was. It was what's important now. And that takes us back to the present, being present in the moment is what do I need to be doing now? And it's a win situation because you're winning when you're doing something that you don't really want to do. But if you say, what's important right now? What should I be doing? So I like that a lot from him. Awe of nature, forest bathing. I don't even know what forest bathing is. I guess it's just walking on a hiking trail. I don't know. Awe from the mountains and animals in their natural habitat and the clouds above. I saw a Facebook post, I guess, recently about when the soldiers were killed in Afghanistan, that there was a cloud of just a soldier kind of kneeling down with a rifle or something. And it was, I don't know if it was photoshopped or not, but it was awesome to see that, what we can see in clouds. All from vastness. If you ever think about, your chances of being born or the earth, looking at it from space. I understand is it Jeff Bezos who's taking people up into space and they're getting to see the earth from up there. Reflecting on just things that are bigger than ourselves. Mind-bending awe. And that comes from just, I can't even explain how complicated the brain is. Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary and thinking, how is it that this brain of ours and our body and our hearts pump, millions of times through our lifetime, and we just kind of take those kind of things for granted. So really thinking about awe-inspiring facts and just the fact that how the world works is just incredible. Awe from courage and inspiration. And you have Einstein there and people doing things like jumping across mountains and awe from leadership and people who are compassionate. And, I see compassion. I went through the booths out here and it was just amazing. The passion and the compassion of all the people who were at the booths describing what they're doing in the community. It's just amazing. And I do believe that volunteering is very good for your brain. So awe of timelessness, a moment in time and the geologic or the passing of seasons. I mean, here we're getting into fall and just the timeless footsteps that we have on this earth and how short they really are. Awe of gratitude for our bodies, for our the goodness of others, awe and the gifts that life gives us from all those dimensions of wellness that we talked about. And then all through habit, reliving moments. And Jonah Paquette says, if you relive a really nice, joyful moment, you get the satisfaction and the brain flood of the good hormones, just the same or not a little less, but not so different from the initial experience of that moment. So stretch your comfort zone, seek out very small adventures. I I was over at the monastery in Beech Grove yesterday and I walked the labyrinth there on the campus, and it was just so peaceful. It was beautiful outside and it was really, really nice. The trees were changing, leaves were changing colors and such. All through social connection, and this is really the theme of this summit. And I thank Denise because this is so much about connection and the volunteering and the giving of yourself to help others, but seeing the awe in others, seeing the awe through children. People talk about grandkids and how they can see various things through that, and sharing stories of awe. And then the awe through creativity and arts and music and architecture. Everything is art. You know, these lights, I'm looking at these beautiful lights and I'm looking at this beautiful thing up here today. Like, it's all about art and music and making our lives really intentional in looking for the joy and the being awestruck. And then lastly, through the compassionate and connected life, we shift our perspective on time, and it reignites our way of just like, let's get out there and experience this life that we've been given. So there's challenges to awe because we're all, in a way, the COVID thing has just really brought people down, and there's a lot of isolation and those type of things. Technology, we're all on our phones all the time, and we're kind of missing things that are going past us. And so my challenge for you would be, and myself every day, is to see those things that are out there, that we are unencumbered by technology and urban living and stress and worry that really don't help us in any way. Okay, so I'm not going to talk a lot about the research on awe, but you can see that it started in about 2012, which is not that long ago. So we're moving toward positive psychology. Makes us more curious, lower stress. I mean, it's all good stuff. And so really, Jonas Paquette talks about seeking out these small adventures, whatever they might be for you, that just give you a little break in the action, or doing something for someone else. And I'm preaching to the choir here, because you had mentioned your volunteer experiences and how fruitful they are for you and such. So children and laughter. Children laugh about 300 times a day. And that's an urban legend, so I'm just telling you that up front. However, there's another urban legend that say adults laugh about 17 times a day. Now that is dismal. Would you say you laugh more than 17 times a day? I would say I do. I hope to, because otherwise you're maybe hanging around with toxic people who you don't want to hang around with anymore. So the Godelieve Smulders is a Dutch artist who paints people laughing. And if you ever look at her work, it's quite phenomenal. It's very abstract, but you can see different people laughing. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Norman Cousins. He was a physician, or maybe he's still alive. I don't know about that. But he was a New York Post editor who wrote in 1979, The Anatomy of an Illness. And he had an unknown illness that he got through this with laughter. And so that's where the book was a smash hit and all that. And that's where this laughter is the best medicine has come from. And it's really true. Well, I'll talk about the Time Magazine thing here in a minute, but there's this getting into the laughter yoga. And I wanted to tell you my experience on that. Back in 1995, there is a physician, he's still alive. His name is Madan Kataria, and he began a family physician who said, laughter is so good. Let's start laughter clubs. Let's start yoga laughter clubs. The yoga piece of this is the breathing. You don't get in different positions on the floor and all these contorted places, but you breathe, and it's a practice that allows the body just to open up, and the flooding of these good hormones on your brain. So he has a lot of videos on YouTube, if you ever have a chance, and I can share these slides with you guys if you're interested. I can let Denise know. But there's a guy in Columbus, Ohio. His name is Steve Wilson. And he has westernized the interpretations of this guy from India, Madan Kataria. And so Steve Wilson goes to Mumbai and studies with Dr. Kataria. Dr. Kataria comes here and all this. So Steve and his wife have certified CLLs, certified laughter leaders. They've certified 7,000 people in the US over the last however many years, since 2005, to be a CLL. That is not a huge certification like by a national organization. It's by Steve Wilson and his business called the World Laughter Tour. My friend from the University of Indianapolis, Lynn Shaw, is a social worker. And during finals week, one year, she said, hey, I'm gonna start, have a laughter session for people because they're all stressed out. The faculty are stressed out, the students are stressed out. We're gonna have this session. So I said, well, I think I'll go to that, what the heck? And so she did this and I said, I wanted to know what she knew about this because there's so much to it. And I would see students poke their head in the door. They were late and they would shut the door and we'd run out in the hall and go get them because they were running away actually from what they thought was a crazy session, which it was. But once they got in there, they just loosened up and everything. So, and he will say, Steve Wilson will say that if indeed we had a certified laughter leader in every nursing home in the US, we would be in a very much different place with our older adults. And so he's very big into that. So you can see the benefits of laughter. It combats respiratory infection, reduces pain, relaxes muscles, positive mental function. I mean, it just goes on and on, the positive aspects. Changes your mood. Happiness is linked to longevity. So this is my favorite slide of all these, is that in 2018, Time Magazine came out with the science of laughter. And it's a wonderful thing. You can get it online. They had it at the checkout at the grocery store when I first saw it. And I thought, I need this. And it talks about our bodies, our minds, our souls, and just the research that lies behind laughter. So it helps regulate stress hormones of cortisol and epinephrine. And it's linked between giving us the natural painkillers of endorphins. And then Robert Provine is another researcher, and that you're probably there's a lot better chance that you'll laugh in social situations. Nobody really sits and laughs by themselves unless maybe they're watching a movie or a video or a TikTok video or whatever it might be. So you're more likely to catch laughter off of somebody else if you know them as well. So here comes the part of the participation. So I would like you guys to kind of stand up and get in like where you are, but kind of back out so that we have a huge kind of a circle, but we're separated. Oh. Okay. Oh, this is perfect. All right. Come on up. All right, so you're going to get a taste of this, and this is not going to be as good with masks on, I will tell you this. We tried a virtual laughter session on Zoom. First of all, nobody showed up, and they were like, no, that's just stupid. But those who did show up, they had a wonderful time. So here we go. What we're going to do is come with me, and we're going to go. With our friend, and our friend has told us the funniest story we've ever heard in our life. We're going to laugh out loud. So I'm going to say a 3, 2, 1.
You know, down in Brown County State Park, you know, the leaves are coming down, it's beautiful with the chicken, we got potato salad, we got everything. Now here comes the ants. And they're getting in our pants. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, ants in your pants. Okay, does everybody have their cardiopulmonary system geared up now? Okay, we're gonna make a milkshake. We're gonna go here, here, and then. Now, if you want to be margarita, that's okay. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Here. 4, 4. 4, 4. So this is so you can tell I'm not telling you a joke. You're laughing because you're laughing. It's just not, we're responding to it, we're making it happen. So let's do one in which, let's see. We're gonna pull an arrow and let it go. And we're gonna, when it goes, okay? Pull. Okay, you gotta do it down. So 3, 2, 1. Exercises hundreds we could have done. I can tell you, I volunteered to help volunteers overseas, which is in Da Nang, Vietnam. And I did this with students from Vietnam, students and faculty in a PT program from Vietnam. They had a blast. And one of the persons was, one of the instructors was missing. And so I said, well, you guys go ahead and teach it to your colleagues. No words were spoken, but we all laughed. It's the universal language. So I just want to leave you with the fact that, I just want to leave you guys with, we tried it out and I appreciate your playfulness and being able to, do this with me. And people have told me after this, they say, I feel better for the whole day. So kind of see if that is the case for you. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
All righty, before everybody leaves out, I just wanted to thank all of our vendors who came today, all of you that participated. So just quickly, we have the Alzheimer's Association of Greater Indiana, American Senior Communities, Anthem, Bright Star Care, Catholic Charities Indianapolis, AmeriCorps Seniors, Chef for Hire, CICOA Meals More, Dementia Friends Indiana, Eastgate Christian Church, Guardian Angel Hospice, Hearing Loss Associates of America, Indianapolis chapter, Hearing Solutions of Indiana, Home Instead Senior Care, Humana Insurance, Indiana University School of Medicine, Joyce House, Main Street Hospice, Meals on Wheels of Hancock County, Oasis Senior Advisors, Perry Senior Citizen Services, Prime Life Enrichment, Radio Next, and SHIP, as well as the Stetson Law Firm. So we want to thank each and every one of you for coming and participating.